we are entering an era where relying on a single mastered skill is no longer a badge of security, but a profound vulnerability.
That opening provocation written decades ago is, well, it is no longer just philosophy. It is a survival strategy for the age of artificial intelligence. Welcome to this deep dive.
Our mission today is to explore the materials we have gathered on the evolving nature of human potential, examining why the traditional advice of extreme specialization is collapsing.
And how you can position yourself to thrive by embracing adaptability over rigid expertise.
We are dissecting a profound shift in how value is created and sustained in the modern world. The historical context of why we were taught to specialize provides the necessary foundation for understanding why that paradigm is now broken.
Well, for decades, specialization was sold to you as the ultimate form of stability. The social and economic contract was fairly straightforward. You pick one specific domain, master it to a degree that few others can, and your value becomes indisputable.
You become indispensable.
Indisputably. The global economy, deeply rooted in the models of the Industrial Revolution, rewarded predictable, repeatable excellence within very narrow verticals.
The educational system was entirely designed around this premise. You selected a major, pursued a specialized degree, and entered a pipeline intended to yield a 40-year career.
Performing increasingly complex variations of the exact same function, becoming the absolute best at one thing was the ultimate career insurance.
We can consider that traditional career path as a highly optimized assembly line. The worker is praised and financially rewarded for doing one repetitive task flawlessly.
Imagine an individual who spends years learning how to tighten a specific bolt on a combustion engine block.
And they learn to do it faster and more accurately than anyone else on the floor.
Their entire livelihood is tethered to the existence of that specific engine.
Absolutely. But if the factory upgrades and replaces the assembly line entirely with a system that produces electric vehicles,
a system that does not use those engines or those bolts at all,
the worker is left completely without purpose. Their flawless execution of a single task means nothing in the new environment.
The mastery of the tool becomes a liability when the tool itself becomes obsolete.
That brings us to our core question. When machines can execute almost anything, how does the individual professional redefine their foundational value?
That mechanism of obsolescence is precisely what artificial intelligence is currently accelerating across knowledge work. The foundational assumption of the specialized career is being dismantled quietly but thoroughly.
The mechanics of value generation are shifting because, execution is becoming cheap.
Technical knowledge, once locked behind years of specialized education and exclusive access, is now highly accessible to anyone with an internet connection and an advanced language model.
You can now command systems to write boilerplate code, draft complex legal summaries, or generate intricate financial models in seconds.
Consequently, entire professions face an oversupply of capability.
The danger lies in the illusion of security.
Individuals genuinely believe they are safe from technological disruptions simply because they are highly skilled at what they do. They mistake the difficulty of acquiring their skill for its permanent market value.
In the modern era, the real metric of professional survival is no longer the depth of your specialized craft. It is your adaptability beyond your core craft.
Since isolated execution is rapidly losing its premium value, the individual professional must logically shift to what remains uniquely human and highly valuable.
The synthesis of diverse knowledge. The foundational value is no longer found in being a specialist, it is found in becoming a synthesizer.
This requires understanding the concept of range. Developing range is not about inviting chaos into your professional life.
Nor does it mean lacking direction or focus.
Rather, it means actively developing the capacity to operate across multiple layers of reality simultaneously: the practical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the strategic.
The future belongs to the synthesizer. Yeah. And we have specific, compelling examples from the source materials to illustrate this dynamic in action.
Consider a software programmer. A programmer who solely writes code is a specialist executing a task.
Their output can easily be replicated or accelerated by automated systems.
But a programmer who deeply understands human psychology builds vastly superior products.
They anticipate user friction, cognitive load, and emotional resonance.
They do not just build a functioning interface. They build an interface that intuitively aligns with how the human brain processes information.
We see the same compounding value across other disciplines, like a marketer fluent in data science.
They do not just run promotional campaigns. They make sharper, predictive decisions based on underlying mathematical realities.
They can spot anomalies in consumer behavior that a pure creative would miss.
And they can craft narratives around data that a pure statistician could never articulate.
Furthermore, a founder who masters storytelling, finance, and human behavior creates cultural movements, not merely profitable companies.
They synthesize disparate fields to build an organization that appeals to investors, captivates customers, and retains top talent simultaneously.
The underlying principle here is that artificial intelligence lacks true context.
An AI system processes massive repositories of data and generates statistically probable outputs, but it does not experience the physical world.
It possesses no intrinsic understanding of human culture, emotion, or interdisciplinary nuance.
Context is solely built through diverse human exposure. Perspective, defined here as the ability to ask better questions and to challenge prevailing assumptions, is far more critical than narrow competence.
The ability to connect unrelated dots across completely different domains. The machine provides the answer, but the human synthesizer determines whether the correct question was asked in the first place.
Acquiring deep knowledge in multiple disparate fields sounds incredibly time-consuming.
If not entirely impossible for a single individual. If you are working 50 hours a week in a demanding profession, dedicating thousands of hours to study architecture, psychology, or data science seems highly impractical.
It is a daunting prospect if you look at it as seeking mastery in all of them.
So is the goal here to become a master of everything, or is there a different fundamental objective to this diverse exposure?
The objective is absolutely not to become a master of everything. Pursuing total mastery in dozens of complex fields would indeed be impossible and ultimately counterproductive.
Then what is the primary goal?
Well, the fundamental objective of this diverse exposure is purely to alter your perspective and enable you to see differently. When you study a new discipline, you are not attempting to reach the top 1% of practitioners in that field.
You are extracting the core mental models.
The unique vocabulary and the distinct problem-solving frameworks of that discipline. You are then importing those frameworks back into your primary domain.
Like synthesizing a moderate understanding of evolutionary biology with a deep understanding of corporate economics.
Which yields insights that a pure economist would never generate. The biologist views markets as ecosystems.
They recognize patterns of symbiosis and resource competition that the traditional economic model might classify merely as market inefficiencies.
The goal is to accumulate diverse frameworks so that when you encounter a novel problem, you have a vast repertoire of approaches.
You avoid the trap described by the old proverb. To a person with only a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
The synthesizer possesses a complete, diverse toolkit of mental models. This allows them to accurately diagnose the structure of the problem before selecting the appropriate intellectual tool to solve it.
The intellectual and practical benefits of synthesis are clearly defined by the research. Yet we must examine why people naturally resist this shift.
The transition relies on understanding the psychological barriers to abandoning specialization.
Society heavily rewards the label of the expert. When an individual has spent 20 years building their reputation, their income, and their professional network around a singular, highly specialized title,
Stepping down from that pedestal to become a beginner again is terrifying.
there is an inherent fear of losing status. How can individuals effectively decouple their self-worth from their specific professional titles to overcome this profound psychological barrier?
The psychological dimension of expertise is often the most formidable barrier to adaptability, when your identity is entirely tied to a single role.
Like defining yourself exclusively as the senior data analyst, or the corporate litigator, or the orthopedic surgeon.
Any technological, economic, or market threat to that specific role registers in your mind as an existential threat to your very self.
People generally resist change, not out of a fundamental inability to learn new concepts,
But out of an inability to detach from the expert label they have cultivated over decades. The human ego clings fiercely to competence.
returning to a state of incompetence, which is required when learning a new domain, feels deeply uncomfortable.
Decoupling self-worth from professional titles requires a fundamental philosophical shift in how you view your own utility.
The philosophy presented in our source material is deeply liberating in this regard. It posits that you are not your role.
You are your underlying capacity to evolve. To achieve this decoupling, An individual must stop defining themselves by the specific output they produce and start defining themselves by the underlying process they utilize.
We can visualize this reframing process clearly. Instead of an individual declaring, I am a financial auditor, their reframed identity becomes, I am a professional who excels at identifying hidden discrepancies in complex systems.
And ensuring structural integrity. That underlying process is agnostic to the specific industry.
The distinction between those two identities dictates your capacity to survive disruption.
The latter identity can easily transition into cybersecurity, corporate compliance, data architecture, or quality assurance.
The former identity cannot. It remains anchored to a specific set of regulations and spreadsheets.
By exploring multiple dimensions and continuously learning outside your primary field, your identity becomes significantly less fragile. You build a psychological safety net.
When one specialized skill becomes obsolete due to an algorithmic advancement, your sense of self remains entirely intact.
Because your identity is anchored to your adaptability and your analytical process, not your specific daily output.
You learn to value your curiosity over your current level of competence. Which brings us to a fascinating metaphor from the text. Acquiring seemingly unrelated skills functions similarly to equipping a telescope with different colored filters.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the mechanism of expanding the surface area of opportunity.
Well, when you observe the night sky through a standard lens, you see a specific arrangement of stars. But if you attach an infrared filter,
You suddenly perceive heat signatures and cosmic dust clouds that were completely invisible moments before.
you are looking at the exact same universe, the exact same market, or the exact same business problem.
But the new lens highlights patterns, structures, and opportunities that were completely hidden from your previous vantage point.
Every newly acquired skill acts precisely as a new lens. It expands the total number of opportunities you can perceive in your environment.
Most massive innovations in the modern economy are entirely invisible to pure specialists because they do not occur neatly within the boundaries of a single discipline.
They occur at the intersection of different fields.
Active exploration and perpetual curiosity become overwhelming strategic advantages in this landscape. This involves intentionally learning things that lack immediate, obvious usefulness.
You study architecture not because you intend to design a building tomorrow, but simply to expand your mental map of the world.
To understand how physical space influences human behavior, flow, and interaction, you might subsequently apply those spatial principles to designing a more intuitive digital user interface.
Or you study music theory not to become a composer, but to comprehend rhythm, harmony, and the resolution of tension.
Those concepts profoundly improve how you structure a persuasive presentation or negotiate a complex contract.
The necessity of immediate utility is a trap. If you only learn things that have immediate predictable utility, you will only ever produce predictable results.
The profound innovations happen when a concept from one domain is unexpectedly applied to another. Usefulness is almost always discovered after a connection is made, not before.
This brings us back to the closing sentiment of our opening provocation regarding specialization and insects.
Insects are efficient, but they are entirely fixed. An ant colony operates with terrifying mechanical efficiency, with every individual strictly specialized for a single biological function.
Foraging, defending, or nursing.
But if the environment changes drastically,
Say a flood alters the terrain or a new predator is introduced.
the colony perishes because it cannot adapt its behaviors. It can only execute its specialized programming.
Humans, by contrast, are inherently inefficient but uniquely adaptable. We take longer to learn tasks, we make errors, and we require rest.
However, that very inefficiency is the byproduct of a brain designed for plasticity. We can change our roles, rewrite our social structures, abandon old methodologies, and learn entirely new paradigms.
In an environment defined by rapid, unpredictable technological change, efficiency is no longer the winning metric. Automated systems will always win the efficiency game.
Adaptability is the human winning metric.
The ultimate goal we have derived from this deep dive is not to abandon depth entirely, but to actively refuse confinement. Maintain your expertise.
Deep knowledge remains highly valuable, but actively build your flexibility alongside it.
The greatest asset you possess in the artificial intelligence era is not the sheer volume of facts or procedures you know, but the rich diversity of ways in which you can think. We must challenge you to examine your own professional and personal trajectory.
Look closely at the boundaries you have drawn around your own capabilities and your own self-image.
What are you refusing to learn at this very moment simply because it does not fit your current identity?
If human adaptability is our ultimate advantage over rigid automated systems, perhaps the most strategic, future-proof action you can take this week is to intentionally attempt to learn something completely outside your domain, fully expecting to be terrible at it.
Do this not to achieve mastery, but just to exercise the vital, uniquely human muscle of being a beginner again.
And consider this final thought to explore on your own. When you subject yourself to being terrible at something new, you are not just building character. The neurological friction of failing at a novel task triggers the release of neuromodulators that physically increase your brain's plasticity.
Which means the simple act of struggling with a new skill actually optimizes your biological hardware to adapt to future disruptions.
Embracing incompetence today literally rewires you to survive tomorrow.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Deep Thoughts Podcast. I hope you found insights and inspiration to take with you on your journey of self-growth. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on new releases and exclusive content. See you next time, where we'll continue to help you grow and explore your full potential.